Good morning.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome. I'm Mark Christmas. Welcome to Sacred Space Sunday. Well, let's say what we're welcome to. Mark Christmas, Reiki Master, Director of Wellness, Niyah Center. Jones, on Jewel. Let's change the name. Director of everything at the Niyah Center. Also philosopher.
Breaking up a little bit this morning, so I don't know if you got a lot of tabs open, but Mark is saying welcome to everybody. Sacred Space Sunday, Reiki Master Mark Christmas, and I am Niyah, spiritual director, and we lead Niyah Center, and this is our Sunday session with you, family. Whether you are joining us live, listening on a podcast, or watching on a stream at a future time and space, we welcome you. And for those who don't know, the Niyah Center, we are an interreligious and empowerment community. Our vision and values are oneness, love, and joy. And our mission is to engage, educate, and empower one another through all of the universal laws and principles, teachings of sages of the past and the present, activating those things in the world to affect an integrated life, social justice, personal and collective empowerment. And we are excited to be here with you all today.
Yes. Thank you for taking over the introduction. Is it still breaking up?
It is a little bit. I think if you speak up, that helps, or directly in the mic.
I'm not sure why. Okay. Well, it's August 7th, first Sunday in August. We are here. A lot happening in the world, right? I was looking at the news this week and current events. That guy Alex Jones got the court demanded him to pay $48 million in restitution for this slander of the Sandy Hook shooting to the parents that were affected by that. We're in the 5th month of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. They finally let some grain. So gas prices went down a little bit. I don't know in the rest of the country, but here in Maryland, they went down a little bit. We're grateful for that. Particularly we got a trip coming up. So that's a welcome thing. What else is happening? Oh, Kansas, the state of Kansas, and the overwhelming majority decided against the new Roe versus Wade anti-abortion laws that were passed, so they would still support women in their rights to choose. So that was big.
That was huge, and in alignment with what is whole and is holy, right? That we wholly have authority over our own physical natures, and one particular group doesn't get to determine the religious beliefs, practices, and rituals of others. Nor one person. No one has that right over another body. So grateful for that, and we will look to move this out not only just across the states, but across the world. So all good stuff.
Yeah. So, so be interested to see what happens with legislation. I think they also passed a bill for veterans to get health support for those that have been exposed to toxic, I think they call it the pit burn, the toxic thing which are causing cancer or cancerous symptoms in a lot of them. So shout out to Congress for finally doing the right thing with the veterans there. So unfortunately, they go and risk their lives for our freedoms and liberties, and they come back home and have to suffer tremendously.
Have to fight again for their freedoms and rights. Doesn't
Yeah.
make much sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're excited to be here today. For those that are joining us, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We see a couple of people's eyes on the screen. You want to use the chat? Let us know you're here. Just say hello in the chat. Let us know you're here. Um, if you're watching on the Twitch or YouTube, now with all the smart TVs, if you got a new TV in the last couple of years, you could take it from your phone or your mobile device and cast it on your television, so you can have it on a big screen, um, and put it through your sound systems or any of those kind of things there that you might do with your media in your home. Today was August, big month for birthdays. August in the Jewel Davis family, rather. We have our brother Derek Leak, who's got his 50th coming up on next Sunday, right? Next Saturday. Yeah, next Saturday.
Yep.
Um,
Daniel Leak has a birthday coming up.
Daniel Leak,
our nephew. And Sister Cheryl D.C. Joy that joins us, as well as to Jerry Smith.
Yeah, that's four in that family. So if you got somebody happy birthday, put a shout out, put the name in the chat, and we'll give them a shout out for the happy birthday as well. Help us grow our community. And so we ask you that you share or reshare, like you can reshare the broadcast. If you're looking at it on Facebook, you could just reshare from your page as is, just share it. And if people comment and stuff, they'll be live in this stream. We'll be able to respond to them. What up, Sweet Noop? Reverend Brown, good to see you, bro. Share, yeah. So share the message, share the broadcast. We're still looking to grow the audience, right? And the word. We believe we have a message that's unique and that's wanted and needed, right? Wanted and needed. So we have so many people with so many divergent experiences that we create a community to bring all of that together without judgment, right? And people to feel a place where they can feel comfortable sharing and being who they are without the pressure of looking to convert or conform to others' beliefs. Right. So, what else? You can follow us on our social media or YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that. Twitch, I think you see that going across the bottom. Nee-yah Center Twitch, and then we also have our podcast now, right? So wherever you listen to podcasts, we should be. It's called the Nee-yah Center Engage, Educate, and Empower. Nee-yah Center Engage, Educate, and Empower. It's a podcast, and it's a replay of what you hear on Sacred Space Sundays. We'll look to put some other material on there over time, but right now that's the extent of what we have. Anything else there?
Find it anywhere you get podcasts, and the good thing is listening to this, you can easily speed it up, slow down the speed, so that and easy for commuting. Sometimes it's easier to listen to a podcast in terms of the bandwidth that it takes up on your mobile devices than watching it like via YouTube. But we're available wherever works for you.
Yeah. If you're interested in being on the show live, video, the video, in the comments, so people can hear you, not just in the comments, but in your voice, contact us at the Nee-yah Center at gmail.com. Nee-yah Center at gmail.com. Also, if you have interest in like executive coaching or spiritual counseling, you can contact us there. If you're interested in Reiki sessions, which is energetic healing, or lessons on how to protect yourself from unwanted energy, or learn how to do self-treatments to help yourself heal, you can contact me at the Nee-yah Center at gmail.com there as well. For those. Last but not least, help us to expand our vision. Your love donation. Zelle at the Nee-yah Center. It went away. The scroll went away at the bottom. Zelle at the Nee-yah Center. Yep. Or cash at the $$ Nee-yah Center. Either of those places, we appreciate your love donations. Helps us to expand our vision, invest in technology and different things we need to do to keep the show going. Subscription fees and all those kind of other costs that are associated with bringing this program to you. Next Sacred Place Sunday is August 21st, 14 days, 2 weeks from now. Yeah, August 21st. I'll be get ready to go back to school. Well,
now it seemed like it just ended for the primary school year, and here you are back again. I know it feels the same for me.
I know. Actually, I go back on the 18th. The teachers report, and then students come back on the 29th. So, yeah, so we're right there. We're right there knocking at the door. So
we're gonna enjoy the time in between.
Yep. Headed to New York, right, for a wedding this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. What's
Shout out to Mitchell and Barry.
Right, I drew a blank on Mitchell's name. Mitchell and Barry. They're wedding in Central Park, so that should be
Central Park, New York wedding. What can't be better than that.
Right, we're getting they set up in the dorms there in the housing at Union as well. So, anything else, Nate, going on there, Miss?
No, that sounds great.
Okay. You want to lead us through our posture of presence, as I like to call it?
Yes. Into a posture of presence. Find your grounding. If you're traveling, notice your surroundings, the sounds, others traveling with or around you, what you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you feel. Sitting, come with me. Raise your shoulders, pull them back, lower them down. Let go. Allow your spine to have a gentle erectness. Crown to the sky. Chin tilted but not overly pointed up. Let go. Arrive. Take a moment and just center yourself. What are you feeling? What are you hearing? Notice without judgment. Do you see with your third eye the rise and the fall of your chest or your belly? Do you feel your breath flowing in and out? In in and out. set an intention for our time today as a reflection of what I'm feeling. An intention of gratitude and appreciation. Gratitude and appreciation. Gratitude and appreciation for life as it is right now in this moment. Grateful for all that is, all. Knowing as we align and center ourselves in this moment, we connect infinite self, our God self, our non-dual self, in oneness, feeling the love, living the joy. Gratitude and appreciation for life, for oneness, for love, and for joy. And with gratitude and appreciation, slowly bring yourself into a higher state of awareness, back in the present moment, in your fullness, maintaining your connection to that part of you beyond your physical nature, infinite.
Awesome. Uh, I love that part of the program. It's my favorite part. Um, whether I'm going to be speaking or not, it always just gives me. Hey, look. Did we find the keyboard?
Say that again. I think you broke up.
Did we find a keyboard yesterday?
Did we find a keyboard? Yes.
Yeah. I might need to switch this one out.
Oh, okay. We can make that
Anyway,
happen.
thank you. So why don't we go into our affirmation?
This is what our donations help us to do. The technology, these things do wear out. The mouse matters, the keyboard matters, all these things that support us in being able to bring you the best experience. High quality Wi-Fi so we don't break up. We might need to get a booster for your room. Okay, so the affirmation. All right, come with me and repeat after me on this affirmation. I am open and receptive to God's good.
Open and receptive to God's good.
As it manifests in every phase of my life now.
as it manifests in every phase of my life now.
I am
I am
open
open
and receptive
and receptive
to God's good
to God's good
as it manifests in every phase of my life now.
as it manifests in every phase of my life now.
Mm. You know, you would think I had that in my conscious mind when I set the intention for today, but I didn't. I'm gonna allow and know that it was absolutely in my subconscious mind, um, but not in my conscious mind. In setting the intention of gratitude and appreciation. And gratitude and appreciation aligned with this affirmation of openness and receptivity to God's good, which is all that God is good. God's good, good, and God, right? You know, we add the O, take the O out. Either way, you arrive in the same place, right? And gratitude and appreciation falls right in alignment with that good, and knowing that it is the truth of my being, and particularly as my infinite self right now. So that really extends
God's good
my
all the
energy.
time.
Say that again.
God's good all the time.
All the times
Right.
God's good. Yeah, that's absolutely, that's what it means.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from.
Yeah. So, take a screenshot of the affirmation, write it down. Our request is that you just be with it over the next couple of weeks until we have our next Sacred Space Sunday. That you put it out in the universe. An affirmation is a truth, right? So when you speak it powerfully and convincingly, you speak a truth into existence, right? And so, which is, this particular affirmation is talking about our testimony, which many times is developed by faith, which we'll get into in our talk in a minute. But, it goes along with the topic today. You should share your testimony. So you should share your truth, right? Yeah. Okay. I believe also there's a reading there.
Yes. So the reading today, and I think we can put that on screen for those of you to follow along, is from Matthew in the Christian Bible, chapter 28, verses 16 through 20. Matthew, Christian Bible 28, 16 through 20. And it reads, "The Great Commission, which says, Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshiped him. But some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age."
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we use that as the opening reading for our talk today, which is you should share your testimony, right? And so first of all, let's talk about what is a testimony. And testimony is an open declaration or profession, as a faith, right? And so it's a corroboration. Another word you heard me use earlier is affirmation, because it's a fact, right? It's a fact of a witness that had an experience. It's their fact versus an opinion would be an expert opinion, right? That would be an opinion of somebody that's an expert on a subject matter. But a testimony is actually a fact, right? And so the question I have for you is: have you heard that sharing your testimony is important, right? Maybe you've read the Great Commission, which Naomi just read for us, where Jesus compelled the disciples to go out and share the good news, right? As we talked about. Well, let's talk about why you should share your testimony, why I say this, right? So when we share our truth with others and they respond with empathy, compassion, and or relate, this alleviates shame on a massive level, right? Not only does sharing our testimony help us to heal, but our story can be the catalyst for healing in others' lives, right? So there are, a lot of voices out there today that say that there's power in simply telling your story. And well, to an extent, this may be true. But our stories alone have little power to inspire or change lives, right? What is more important is figuring out how to use our stories to tell God's story. Right? So sharing our testimonies is part of standing as a witness, right? As a witness, and is a powerful way to invite God to touch someone's heart and possibly change their life, right? So, as you heard me say earlier, personal testimony is simply the good news presented in terms of your own experience. So, it's the experiential, practical, and live side of your life, right? It's the sharing where your life and God's action have intersected. Let me say it again. It is sharing where your life and God's action have intersected. Right? And so, there's several reasons to share your testimony. I've got about 8 of them, which I'll cover. One is that it's yours, right? And so everybody has a testimony, but everybody's testimony is unique to them, right? So it's yours, right? So it's nobody else can share the personal account of your life and where your life and God's actions have intersected, except for you, right? Sharing your testimony, as I said, together brings God glory, right? And highlights the greatness and the wonder of God. It also demonstrates God's power. Right? Your testimony demonstrates God's power. So when you share your testimony, and even your struggles sometimes, right, it showcases the love of God because it shows you what God loved you so much that He carried you through these circumstances and situations, right? The other thing is our testimonies promote togetherness and so unity because somebody else knows that what they're going through, they aren't the only one that's going through it, or they aren't the only one that's been through it, and that God will deliver them just like He delivered you, right? Or bring you through, bring you over, and bring you victorious, right? Another reason to share our testimonies is because God doesn't want us to forget, right? And if you talk about it, then to keep it present, as Naomi used the word, in our conscious mind, not just in our subconscious, right? But in our conscious mind, we keep it in front, right? And it's also important to share your testimony because it's your weapon, right? Now, in the Christian Bible, in Revelation chapter 12, verse 11, it tells us that we won the victory over the devil because of the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So it becomes our weapon, right, for victory. And the number 8 is that our struggles will lead to a celebration. Now, I grew up in a Pentecostal church on the south side of Chicago, and they would have testimony service at the beginning of the service before the preacher preached. And that would be something to behold because as the saints would be sharing their testimonies, you might get a little speaking in tongue or shouting, right? Celebration. Next thing you know, everybody's clapping and stumping, and the whole church is shouting, dancing, and holy dance, and so your struggles will lead to a celebration. The overcoming of your struggles, share your testimony will lead to a celebration. Now, I want to talk about just 2 more things. One is the power of a strong testimony, right? And so your personal security and happiness depends upon the strength of your testimony, right? For it'll guide your actions in the times of trial or uncertainty, right? So in this uncertain world, there are some things that will never change, right? The perfect love of God for each of us, the assurance that God is there and will always hear us, the existence of absolute unchanging truths, right? The fact that there is a plan of happiness, the assurance that success in life is attained through faith, right? Now, hear this: a strong testimony is the sustaining power of a successful life, right? So it's centered. I mean, it's Right at the center is the understanding of the divine attributes of God and a willing reliance upon God, right? And so, the divine attributes that God is always present. He always hears us. He loves for us, wants the best for us, right? Those are some of the divine attributes of God. Is a loving, caring, and powerful God, right? And a willing reliance upon God, right? So, see, a strong testimony will give you peace and comfort and assurance, right? It generates a conviction that as the teachings of God are consistently obeyed, like surrender to God's will, right? Be open to God's direction, trust, right? And obey. That life will be beautiful, our future will be secure, and that there will be a capacity to overcome the challenges that cross our path, right? So a testimony grows from understanding truth, distilled from prayer and pondering of scriptural doctrine, right? It is nurtured by living those truths in faith and the secure confidence that the promised results will be obtained, right? And so, if you look back over time and you read the Bible or some of the other ancient documents, you see a strong testimony has sustained prophets throughout the ages and fortified them to act with courage and determination in times of difficulty. There's plenty of scriptures in the Old Testament of the Bible that talks about how the prophets stood before kings or nations and declared truths, right? Even in the face of being beheaded or killed or thrown in jail or outcasted because of the words they were saying. But it sustained them, right? And fortified them to act with courage, even in those difficult times, right? And a powerful testimony can do the same for me. It can do the same for you, right? And so as you fortify your own personal testimony, it'll give you power to make correct choices so that you can stand unwaveringly against the pressures of an increasingly vicious world, right? So, my personal security, your personal security and happiness depend upon the strength of your testimony. For it will guide your actions in times of trial or uncertainty. I'll say it again. Your personal security and happiness depend upon the strength of your testimony. For it will guide your actions in times and trial and uncertainty. Right. And so, one of the questions you want to ask yourself is, does your testimony guide you to correct decisions? Right. And if so, to do so, it's for it to guide you to correct decisions. Fundamental truths must become part of the very fiber of your character. Now, Naomi and I have been listening to Abraham Hicks for the last couple of months. And she speaks about this law of attraction and how it's always in play, right? And then, but that it really has to be something that you take into your body, into like the very fiber of your character, and believe in and trust in, right? Because it needs to be an essential part of your being, really. Your testimony will be fortified as you exercise faith in God, right? So in God's teachings, it is limitless power to accomplish what He has promised, right? And so the key word there is exercise faith, right? Those are the key words. Because true faith has enormous power, but it must be principles that must be followed to unleash that power, right? So faith are things which are hoped for and not seen. So wherefore, dispute not because you see not. So you can't argue against faith because you don't see it. For you receive no witness until after the trial of your faith, right? And so, I think of a time in my life where I was really seriously depressed and I didn't know how to get up, and I just had faith that God would bring me through it. And, my health was starting to fail. I would say my desire to be vigilant in life was starting to fade. And God brought me through it, right? And it wasn't until after I came through it and surrendered to God in the faith that God would bring me through it fully, that I was able to experience that, right? And become a witness to the power of the divine spirit, the power of God, right? So, often, some of this guidance is accompanied by powerful emotions. And sometimes you may see people start to cry when they share their testimony and make it hard to speak. And, I remember a time when I was in that place. I'm not there anymore. Because testimony is not an emotion, right? It is the very essence of character, woven from threads born of countless correct decisions. And so, continue to make decisions based on my faith. Continue to make decisions based on my faith. My testimony guides me to make correct decisions. Okay, if I do this, then this will happen, right? If I trust in God, God will bring me through. If I believe, even though I don't see it, I know that it'll happen. I know that it'll come. And even though my bank account looks low right now, I have what I need to take care of all of my needs fiscally, right? And that those kind of things continuing to reinforce the power of correct decisions around how I think, how I'm thinking. So in this case, my decisions are my thoughts, and then the actions that go along with it, right? And so these choices are made with trusting faith in things that are believed and, at least initially, are not seen, right? And so it's important for us to realize the value of our testimony, right? There's some thought that God often calls us to do things we're afraid of. He puts us in those kind of situations, but He will always provide us with power. Like we said in our affirmation, I am open and receptive to God's good as it manifests in every phase of my life now. And so, while we might be shy about sharing our testimonies, we ought to be bold and share them when the Spirit calls us to. So, in wrapping this up, let me just talk about how to share your testimony, right? And so, I said earlier, there's a lot of voices out here today that say that there's power in simply telling your story, right? And to an extent, that is true. But our stories alone, again, have little power to inspire or change lives. What's more important is figuring out how to use our stories to tell God's story, right? Until the intersection of where my life and God's action have intersected, right? And so it reminds me of a scripture in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 1 through 5. It says, when I came to you, brothers and sisters, I did not come proclaiming the mystery of God to you in lofty words of wisdom. For I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. And I came to you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. My speech and my proclamation were not with plausible words of wisdom, but with a demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith might rest not on human wisdom, but on the power of God. And so, basically he says that, his testimony was, he didn't know a whole bunch. He wasn't coming to declare himself as to be all knowing, but he did know the story of God and the relationship that he had with God and the power that God and the Spirit had demonstrated in his life. And he shared that such that those that are hearing it could also connect to that power of God, right? And not have to relate to their own wisdom, right? And so your wisdom is based on things that you see, touch, and feel, your experiences. But this was in the case of having faith, which is not seen, right? So faith is something that's not seen, and having faith that the power of God will sustain and bring you through, right? Now, there's a study that says the average attention span of a human is about 8 seconds. So an 8-second attention span, maybe that's exaggerated. Maybe it's more for some of us. Maybe it's less for some. But it makes a good point, right? And basically the point is we do not have limited amounts of time to share what God has done in our lives. So when sharing our testimony, we must be concise, clear, and compelling, right? So it doesn't have to be very convoluted. It doesn't have to have a lot of details to it. It wants to be concise, clear, and compelling, right? So share God's story through your testimony and figure out how to use your story to share God's bigger story. Right? Don't be afraid to share your story because it can bless those to whom you minister, right? How will you share your testimony today? That's the question I leave you with, right? And so the insight plus application is, here is a sample of how you could share a testimony, right? And so maybe something that's happening in your life, you're going through a tough time with your health, right? Or in a relationship, and the person, you tell a person about what you're going through, and they respond with sympathy to a tough time you're experiencing. Oh man, it's terrible. Feel so bad for you. I'm sorry to hear that. You simply can reply that you have faith that God will work everything out according to His divine plan, as He always has, right? That you're grateful that God always works things out for you according to His divine plan. That is a testimony in itself. And so remember, just as the Naomi said in the last Sacred Space Sunday, when somebody asks, "How are you?" it's a prompt. And so, there's many times that we're prompted to share our testimony, and just am I connected to that? Oh, here's an opportunity where I can share where my life and God's actions intersected. So hopefully that word was meaningful, and that you found something in there. But this, Nay, I'm curious to those that are listening, how will you share your testimony? All right. How do you share your testimony? I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? I just see that. I just saw you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's good. It's good. It's
Okay.
good.
Go ahead.
I just want to confirm the question. How do I share my testimony?
Yeah.
Every other
How
week.
will you share your testimony?
Okay, because I was going to say every other week on Sacred Space Sunday is one way that I share my testimony. But in addition to that, yeah, I love this application of your insight in an extension of what we talked about last Sacred Space Sunday of when someone asks how I'm doing. It's an opportunity to share my testimony as you shared here. And certainly, you've offered a wonderful reply. Another one we hear a lot is, I'm well, everything always works out great for me. That's a testimony, right? It's an affirmation, a testimony, an acknowledgement of a higher truth, right? Even if you could find some ways to poke holes in that. It's a testimony of a higher truth. You're still standing, you're still breathing. Everything actually always works out well for me. So certainly when you get that prompt, that's one way to share my testimony. I share my testimony also through the writing that I do. So many ways, and the energy exchanges that I have with every encounter, because my energy is a reflection of my testimony.
Yeah. You said affirmation, and so affirmation is a truth, right? It's a declaration of truth, and that's exactly what a testimony is. It's a fact, right? It's a factual account from a witness. So perfect. Yeah. So this was just on my heart to share around, sharing your testimony, the importance of it, and that people need to hear it to be reminded to sort of to connect that there is something greater that has their greater well-being at the forefront, right? Even though when they're going through, sometimes it may not seem like it, but knowing that they can get through it, and they can get to it, and they can get through it. Right.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It looks like our internet all across the board is acting crazy today.
Okay.
That as you were sharing different testimonies, and different testimonies essentially, from the Bible, I was hearing it in an interesting way today. Each time you read a phrase around what God had to offer, and I positioned my understanding, because my understanding of God is, God resides within me, and that I am an extension and expansion of a greater whole. But like the drop of water, I have all of its parts, and so it's not one, it's not two, that's the non-dual relationship of God within. So if you read the Bible in those passages, and maybe you'll pick one of the things that's in your notes that references God, but in reading it, you're thinking about God within. So it's not something out there that's doing the action; it's actually within me. So it says trust in God, right? And if God is within, it's saying trust myself.
Yeah.
Trust yourself. It's saying trust yourself. And I think that there's a way that many of us have been taught and trained, and we say trust in God, and we hear that and we believe that, but there still is this sense and sentiment that trusting in God is trusting in something that's separate and different from ourselves, or saying trust in God and trust in myself are not the same thing, right? That there's a
Yeah,
sense that
there's a
trust
disconnect.
myself and trust in God is different. Well, I can't trust myself, but I can trust in God. But you are God. So you hear what I'm saying about that there's an opportunity there, I think, for some growth and enlightenment if you really recognize your connection.
Yeah, there's a disconnect that exists because, like I said, it's sharing where my life and God's action have intersected, right? And
Right.
so, um,
Yes, so I think your message is so powerful, right? When you really understand that the God within, and that so these directives are not coming from, so that really, being with yourself and trusting yourself and recognizing who you are, that it expands your self-understanding, self-worth, and courage and confidence,
yeah, yeah,
and thus
um,
faith.
right, right. Keisha Dean has a question. Can you elaborate on how sharing your testimony protects you? You said that right. Well, I think it protects you because it reinforces or brings to your consciousness the power of of God in your life. God in you, God around you, God through you, to be able to deliver you, right, to guide you to correct decisions, so as you go forward and you faced with some uncertainty, that you have some protection because you have some reinforcement around choosing powerfully in those moments, right? Even in the moments when you don't see it or feel it, right? That you know that you could choose powerfully, and so your personal security is what I said, and happiness depends on the strength of your testimony, for it will guide your actions in times of trial or uncertainty. Hopefully that clarifies a little bit for you, Keith.
And as I'm thinking about it, I think it also comes around, like you said, around. I think I put it in here. Your quote around um,
My
my
decisions.
decisions, right, are my thoughts and actions that come along with them. That even in this exchange that we said, this prompt that we get all the time on how are you? And when you choose in that moment for your testimony to be empowering, to choose to answer from an empowering testimony, I am well, you know, what does it say here in the application? Let's
And the
put that back up.
affirmation.
Yeah,
And
and
the
the
application,
application, right?
right,
I've got faith in God will work everything to his will, right? When you say these things as your testimony, it is to some extent a field of protection from what energy you might be in the space of,
right,
and it's also a field of protection of how they might have responded had you brought a different testimony to bear. So
yeah.
I see it actively working as a protection around what energy you invite in by the energy your testimony gives out.
No, that's a great point. Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Keisha, for the question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Half sleep.
I can't tell. I can't tell. So good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, also, right? Protection from your own negative thoughts. Yeah, that's a great one. Yes, for sure. Right? So, yes, it's a shield of protection in many different ways, from inside energy and outside energy.
Because we know that our thoughts many times lead to our actions. So,
Thoughts are things every
right,
time,
yeah.
not many times, every time. We like to hope that it's only sometimes, but the law of the universe says no, your thoughts lead to what manifests every time.
Yeah. So, other questions or comments from the audience?
This is good. This is good. Well, we know it's August and summertime, and people are trying to get in their last days and minutes of summer. It's been
Right.
hot more places than not. It's definitely a warm one here in Maryland. It's gonna, surpass 90 degrees Fahrenheit today.
Is
Um, oh
it?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And the trees are still greening. They're still greening. The rain is still finding its way in. So with all of the sun and the heat, it is still lush and green, right? And
Mm.
so it is with life, and so it is in life. You know, despite the things that may come and try to intervene and interrupt, there are still many opportunities, every opportunity to flourish. And that is our testimony if we allow it. Back to our affirmation. Let's put our powerful affirmation back up before we head into prayer. Yes, as we are open and receptive in gratitude and appreciation, all of God's good as it manifests every phase of my life. When, Mark?
Now.
Right now.
Right.
Thank you for sharing your testimony and helping us to understand the power in sharing ours. Why don't you close us with a prayer?
Okay. As I close my eyes and bring into solemnness and solitude the grandness of God and the Holy Spirit, divine spirit, and the oneness and love and joy with that and with those that are listening, the sound of our voice or the recording. We thank you for the opportunity to come together to celebrate our divineness, to celebrate the fact that you always hear every prayer, that you always answer every prayer, even if you don't answer at the moment when we think you should. You're always on time, right? You're always on time. May not be on the time that I want it, but it's always exactly what we need. So we thank you for being a God that always hears and loves us and wants the best for us and will deliver and guide us in those moments of uncertainty and give us reason to believe through past experiences of faith that we can build on and depend upon going forward. We thank you for the safe travels of those that are traveling, those that are still the summer vacation from school, keeping the kids and the teachers safe and prepared for a really powerful school year in 2023, 24. No, 2022, 23. And we're just grateful for all that you're doing and have done and will continue to do. That everything always works out perfect according to divine order. In your name, pray, amen, and so. Bless you, wonders, love, and joy.
Thank you.
You can support us through love donation, support the vision. Well, Niyah Center at gmail.com. Hashtag Niyah Center. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your attentiveness, your energy you brought to this, and we can feel it in the broadcast. Next Sacred Spring Sunday. Wednesday night.
It's hard to hear you.
Next Sacred Spring Sunday
is August 21st. August 21st. Love donations. Support us. Support us.
I can't believe you can't hear me.
I can now. We're gonna do some microphone improvements.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Turn the music down. Maybe that helps.
No. Grateful to all of you. We send you out, as we said, in blessings of oneness, love, and joy. And we will see you again on the 21st. Be safe and stay positive. Share your testimony.
Let's take us out with the affirmation again.
And get back to it. You love to just put stuff on me randomly as if I magically can respond to all. I am open and receptive to God's good as it manifests in every phase of my life now. And so it is.
Amen. So it is. Great broadcast. Love y'all. Love you.